What is up? Welcome to the American Peloton. I am Jonathan Crane and I need a new sign on. I guess I'm going to work on that in the off season.
Cat one, officially.
Yeah. Well, I need to send in my thing. I've got a notes app in my phone with all my points,
I
but I
thought
haven't transferred that to Tish yet.
I thought we talked about it, and I thought you would send it to Trish. But
Yeah, I've been meaning to do it, but turning the note in my phone into something that another human could read and make sense of is going to be a huge pain in my ass. But
yeah,
yeah,
it's worth
I've
it.
also I'm done with all the racing for this year, so my motivation hasn't been huge, but I'm gonna get it done.
Yeah, just wait till you get to cross season, and then it'll spike back up.
Right, like next week.
Yeah, pretty
Our
much.
cross season begins the same. I was gonna say oh, racing, road racing is done for the year. It's time to have a clean wrap up. Florida hasn't even had their state championship yet. Their state championship is the same day as my first cross race, which is
That's
late for
crazy.
cross,
It's crazy.
October 13th.
Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Did you introduce yourself already?
No,
Let's
I'm
do that.
Ben Edwards. I'm the team director at Skyway, presented by Domestique Coffee. We're going to be a Cat One team next year, so just going to let that cat out of the bag.
Yeah.
Um, no more
Yeah.
2-3. So if anyone wants to pay for us to go to Redlands or something, I don't know.
Oh no, don't pay for that.
No, we're not going to Redlands. We're a crit team.
I don't have any desire to be, 100th. My one
No,
of the dudes that race Zwift with Oliver, he's on Red Truck Racing now. He was on UNC Canadian team at the time. But he did Redlands a couple years ago and he's a strong guy, but in the same world as I am. And he did Redlands and he was like, yeah, every day I'm like 90th wheel and I just do power PBs to stay in the group,
no,
in the
yeah,
gruppetto.
no, yeah.
Um,
We're squarely a crit team.
yeah,
It's mainly a joke. We're all too Redlands is a little bit too not what we want to do.
not the focus.
Maybe if Redlands was filmed and streamed and people gave a shit about it, then we'd do it.
Yeah,
But
the stocks are down for American road racing. I think when I say that, people take offense to it, like I'm dogging it or whatever. Like if road racing was happening and people cared, I would love to watch it and talk about it, but it's just not. It's like I'm
yeah,
acknowledging the reality, not like celebrating it.
yeah, I think that's like something people get mixed up is that we're not like hailing the death of road racing. Um, we're just saying like, hey, yeah, road racing is on its last leg, and saying it matter of factly versus like we want road racing in America to die, which is not the case.
Right. And it's also not a thing where I don't see a path forward for it as it like I mean it's not going to just go away in America. Obviously there will continue to be a national championship and local road racing here and there, but like as a sort of consumer spectator version of the professional sport in America, it's definitely waning.
Right. And that's the thing. I think as attention spans are getting shorter and shorter across the like everybody's attention span, like it's a microwave generation. Like if you think about it, like it used to be like short videos on YouTube were like 3 minutes long, and
Hmm.
it'd be like, oh, that's too short, like that. And then now it's YouTube Shorts, and they're 6 seconds long, and
Yeah,
like that's all people have attention span for. Um, and so unfortunately with road racing, like the attention span for 5 or 6 hours is not there for the majority of people, but you can get someone to pay attention to 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes of a crit. I feel like a lot easier. And so
totally.
that's a large factor in why road racing is kind of dwaned. over the course, or not Dwayne, waned over the course.
Dwindled and waned.
Dwindled.
Dwayne.
That dwindled is what I was looking for. Um, Dwindled over the past couple of years.
Yeah, for sure. Before we get too deep down this rabbit hole, I said I was going to do all the things that I always forget to do up top, including everybody who's, if you're watching this on YouTube or Twitch live, subscribe to the audio podcast. I assume that most people, in America, cycling as a spectator sport is generally consumed by people who also cycle. So if you're like me, there's some podcasts I watch on YouTube, but I also listen while I'm riding. So go subscribe to the audio version on all of the podcast players. And if one of these comes out when you're about to go do some base miles, you can listen instead of watching. And I guess also vice versa is true if you're one of the people who subscribe to audio. Actually, someone at I think it was Gateway, like recognized me from the podcast, like recognized my name. One of the people who was doing registration and was like, "Oh, it's gonna put a face to the name." And I was like, "You never seen the podcast?" They're like, "Oh no, I just listen." So they,
Hey.
you know, make the jump to video if you have not already. Speaking of the like engagement and the attention spans, so next week we've got someone coming on the show who I think is going to have a lot of interesting stuff to say about that. Mr. James Grady, who, if you don't know who he is, not a name necessarily a ton of people know, but he started a lot of things and has worked on a lot of things you probably have heard of, including the Red Bull Bay Climb, the Red Bull Short Circuit, the Red Bull Legends skateboard event. He also started the Mission Crit, the fixed gear crit in San Francisco. And he has a new venture called Formula Fixed, which is going to be a new fixed crit league with a couple of different components. One that's more of the like rad race style track race, and then another that seems like it's going to be more traditional criterium style, but he's got some big names committed to it. Alex Briggs from Techers, Danny Morstead, who's been on Virginia Blue Ridge and LA Sweat on the women's side. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see this. Chris Tolley, we're gonna have him on next week. He's got a test event coming up next week, and we're gonna get him on before that happens so he can talk a little bit about it.
I love that fixed racing is back. I
Yeah,
feel like Red Hook was incredible. I think it got a little bit. It mostly went away because it got too big, right? Like
yeah,
the budget to run it because it was like a new race in a new country every other week.
yeah.
So I think like it just got too big to be sustainable. But I think a national level fixed series like that, like this,
Hmm.
honestly, like the best thing ever.
I think it definitely has legs. I think what excites me about fixed crit racing, I mean, one, I just think it's cool because I like come from that world. The first races I did were Alley Cats on fixed gear, raced single speed cyclocross and all that stuff. So I just like it. But the barrier to entry is so low. And when we're talking about a time period where, to get back to our discussion of road racing and how it's on a downward trajectory right now, um, a lot of that is because it takes so much infrastructure and money to put on a road race, like from every perspective. It's a lot of roads you got to close down. It's a lot of municipalities you got to deal with. It's a lot of follow cars, support systems for the teams. Road bikes are expensive,
Yep.
and fixed crit, especially. I think the crux of Formula Fixed is that he is trying to have these in like totally, I think even indoor, like not even just enclosed like how NCL Atlanta was in a track that was gated or whatever. But I think these are all going to be indoor races.
Yep.
We'll ask him next. It's going to be Wednesday. So however you are watching this, it'll be live on the YouTube and the Twitch next Wednesday. So look out, subscribe for that if nothing else.
Yeah, there we go. I'm excited. I think that's what we need. The thing about like barrier to entry, if you were to just go buy a new fixed gear bike, like
Hmm.
most people are building up old Italian steel frames and putting whatever's on them for like $400.
Hmm.
If you want to go buy a brand new fixed gear bike, you can get on the State Bike Co. website,
Yeah,
pay like $700-800, and you have like a bike you can actually ride. That's like safe, and you could race some alley cats on it just fine.
totally.
Um, and like that's we need things more in that direction instead of like $15,000, $20,000 McLaren S Works. Like,
Right. If we're talking about what's going to grow the sport, and we're talking about a time where it's contracting, I think this is a good, from a promoter standpoint. It's easier to put these races on. Having
mhm.
these indoor, it's more contained. There's less variables to deal with, less of the things that I think the NCL ran into. And then from a participant standpoint, you're not asking someone to buy, like you were saying, like a ten thousand
Mhm.
dollar bike just to be competitive. Like you can get this €800 Dolan deep wheels, out the pack. It's ready to go, or a
Yeah,
$700 state bike, state undefeated. That's ready to
yeah,
race, and it's not just like you can get through the race on that. It's like those are good bikes, and you are at basically no disadvantage.
yeah. There's like another even cheaper brand, like Avalon.
Um,
I'm
there's
a,
unknown. There's no, Anchor is like an NJS brand. But
let me
yeah, there's a
see.
bunch of those fixie brands out there though that
Yeah,
do
like
good like hydroformed aluminum.
yeah, like that's the thing. Like all these bikes, like I just type in fixed gear bike, $500, $600. Um, like you're not you're not beating that.
Yeah,
And then now like you have people okay because that style of racing is a little bit more chaotic, a little bit more enclosed with streams. Like there's more viewer potential. Like if you're thinking from like a short term memory or like short attention span, if
hmm,
you're enclosed like fixed gear racing on a go-kart track is going to cause crashes. Like that's just part of it, right? And
right.
so I can create a 10-second reel of like a drone, an indoor drone filming a crash, and that'll get like 5 million hits in like
Yeah,
3 days. And
and
then
I think
you're
we'll
not
we'll
getting that
go
elsewhere.
through. James sent me his like the pitch deck he's been using to pitch the league to sponsors and stuff, and I don't know how
Cool.
much of that I can share, but he's got some really good ideas about um creating content across multiple platforms and like exactly the kind of thing you're talking about. So it sounds like he's ahead of the curve. I'm excited to find out about it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna spring a concept on you. So we talked about talked about like how to do this episode, and I want to, rather than like we did a tier list last year and we did all the teams and put them on the tier list. I just want to do who's overperforming and who is underperforming. So I've got a whiteboard here with a line on it, and I'm gonna like throw out in 3D space, some things for us to talk about. And I guess the first one that I've already got queued up here is the Austin Outlaws. And I'm gonna say, and this is individual riders, teams, events, leagues. I think we kind of want to talk about this in terms of just like whatever comes to mind, whatever like has stuck with us, because there's been so much stuff this season. There's a reason it has stuck in our minds as particularly good or particularly bad. So we'll use that as a jumping off point and just kind of throw some stuff out there. But Austin
Yeah.
Outlaws, how are you feeling about their season?
If it wasn't for Lucas Bourgoin, they wouldn't have anything. So
And Luke Fetzger. I
and
mean,
Luke
he
Fesker,
was he
yeah,
was helping him.
yeah. So like if you're putting the entire weight and value on a team on two guys, I would
Hmm.
say they overperformed from last year because they had literally nothing last year.
Right.
Um, So I
I'm
think you have to put them in overperform because they did better
yeah.
than last year. And I expected nothing out of them at all.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. Is like this is not gonna be a how high up I put a team or an individual doesn't necessarily mean they got
Yeah.
more results than someone else. But I'm waiting the expectations that we came into the year,
Yeah.
like we, you and I, but also we as a cycling
Yeah.
public. And yeah, I feel like they way overperformed given that I feel like last year they had more big names and less results, and this year it seemed like they kind of jumbled things up with the entire Legion ecosystem, moved a lot of talent over to Blazers, a lot of the names around Corey and Outlaws was kind of the young gun squad, and the young hungry guys were able to get it done a lot of podiums for those guys.
Absolutely. Like I do want to like make it clear. So when we say like over or underperform, it's based off of like what we expected them to do. So if we put like a top tier team like right on the bar,
Hmm.
it's because they did exactly what we expected. They may have been like the most dominant team, but it's
Yeah,
this is we expected them to be the most dominant team, and they were.
right. This is like performance versus expectation, so rather than just like pure results. So I would say that like a Chris Froome Sky team that would go right on the bar because after
Yeah,
they've won the tour a couple of times, that is the bar for them.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Feel free to throw out whatever comes to your mind, but
So let's
and
do um like DNA.
okay, give me your pitch for them.
I think they performed to expectations. They're right on the bar.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
they last year they were like the team right beneath the Legion ecosystem and NCL, and a lot of times ahead of any of those teams on a given day. And then
Hmm.
this year it was pretty much like the Legion ecosystem teams and DNA, and there was nobody else anywhere close.
Is that one of the teams that's going away next year? I guess that's something that we're gonna have
So
to.
DNA is going away next year.
Mm,
Yeah,
damn, that's rough. So that's something we're gonna hit, especially on the women's side as we're going through this. There's there are a lot of teams that we would love to talk about that are we're going to talk about, but then we're going to have to say, and they're going away next year. So,
yeah, yeah. But the DNA one is, I mean, that's not like a bomb for people. I mean, that's been pretty commonly known
yeah.
for a while, I feel like. I think we could do
So, are you saying directly on the line, over the line?
directly on the line. I think they did exactly what you would expect from them. They were,
Yep.
Riley was like second or third in the ACC overall,
Hmm.
which is exactly where I would have said they would be.
Yeah. Super consistent podiums, no like absolute breakout results. There was nothing they dominated that I didn't expect them to.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna. I want to like keep mixing it up here in terms of what we're talking about. So let's talk USA crits.
All
How do you
right.
think USA crits fits in here?
I think they performed over expectations. Like, I think the racing overall was interesting on the men's and women's side. The courses were interesting to watch and like
Hmm.
good. Um, the only thing that might knock them, like, I don't think the prize money was like crazy high in relation to the ACC. I could be incorrect on that, so don't come for me. Um,
But it was
and
also a
everything
cheaper
was,
series to get to.
yeah, and everything was streamed.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna, even like as you say that, that makes me think I'm actually scooting this up a few notches. For those of you listening, I'm putting all these things on a whiteboard that you can see on the YouTube, but we're gonna talk through it in a way that makes sense
Yeah.
either way. But I'm sliding them up a few notches here, thinking about the fact that it was really cheap to get to all these races, or comparatively.
Hmm.
They were all in like a geographically compact region, and they took place between I have that pulled up somewhere. It was like April, and it was basically a month and a half span.
So, like to put it in like a dollar amount, I have no problem saying this. Like,
Sure.
if your team is southeast based and you're not paying for an Airbnb for the whole time or lodging, and you're just paying entries and like
Mm-hmm.
maybe helping with some travel, you can get a team of 10 to every USA Crits race for under $4,000 just for entries.
Right. That's
Which,
if nobody's flying in, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like for a regional Southeast team, like
mm-hmm.
it is so cheap to do USA Crits, and the value that you get out of it is so high because everything is streamed. They're
Right.
using well established races that people are actually going to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it's hard to beat. I don't have any real faults with USA Crits other than like they use the dangerous barriers at every race. Like that's the only thing you could be like,
Yeah, but so did almost every race. So it's
yeah,
like
right.
that's just on par. And I felt like the races were generally decently safe, like where they could think it through.
Hmm.
Like the extra spicy corner at Lagrange, they did not have the barriers there so that you could run out on the curb, and,
Yep.
and no one crashed there. I think maybe not a direct result of that, but there was some level of thought put into it, even if the cheaply available barriers are the ones that do
Yep.
suck. Um,
And I mean, like races like Athens is usually pretty good, but like this year especially,
mhm.
um, like yeah, everything is top notch.
Yeah, I think the most interesting racing I was able to watch of the year, and this gets back to the fact that they were all streamed, is that uh, the stretch of like Greenville, because Greenville was the one where on the men's and women's side you had someone who was an NCL rider go solo, and then other people bridge up to them, and it was just like total chaos.
Hmm.
And then Spartanburg and Athens. Uh, I believe Spartanburg was the one where the breakaway on the men's race had both Rainstorm and Ribble, and they were trying, like, Ribble was having to deal with the in America, if you lap the field, you're back in the field, rather than in Great Britain, if you lap the field, they pull the whole field. So the tactics got super interesting. The battle between Ribble and Rain was like really fun to watch, and there was a stream, so you could actually watch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've heard a lot of riders talk about how that week, Speed Week and USA Crits, um, on I forget who all I've heard say this, but on like EVOQ podcast and on Criterium Nation, multiple riders have said like, yeah, USA Crits was kind of the highlight, and that's both American domestic racers, pro racers, and international racers saying that was a highlight for them.
Yeah, I mean it just makes sense because it's an easily digestible series of quality racing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, are we searching for automatic Avis?
Yeah, that brings me to my next one. So if we're talking Athens, I think that immediately puts automatic Abyss on my mind. The
Yeah,
picture I've got here is Tom coming across the line at Athens. So
I so like if Tom hadn't won Athens, I would say they performed to expectations. But because Tom won Athens, I think they're a little bit above expectations.
so I think Tom's win at Athens puts them, definitely on the correct side of the line, on the positive side. Um, but then I think their women's program, uh, Kim Stoveld won the ACC
Yeah,
day of Dairylands. They had a really strong year on the women's side, and a better year this year than they did last year by leaps and bounds on the men's side, if only because of that win. But they were also generally stronger overall. So I'm gonna say they're comfortably like middle of the correct side of the line there.
yeah, for sure. Um, let's talk about Blazers.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's get into somebody. We got a lot of stuff on the upper side of the line. Let's put something on the low side.
So I think you can't put Blazers too far down because Sky Schneider like was on the podium at every single race this
Yeah,
year. But like they have to still be on the negative side of the line because name one thing that the men's team did all year.
and even Sky, like I'm gonna say that her results were good, but they were. I think I expected her to get more wins than she did. Like
Yeah,
I think if she had been on par with Alexis, if she had gotten 510 and Alexis had gotten 510, I would say like maybe she saved their season. But the fact that she was getting podiums, and it seemed like on the men's side, they moved Corey over here, and that was a big story that we were talking about, and that kind of came to nothing. And then it seemed like mid-season they were kind of scrambling the roster around. I think they moved Johnny Clark from Outlaws to Blazers at some point, and they
yeah.
maybe did the same thing with Monk Fury, who we didn't see a ton of this season, or maybe he went the other
Monk
way.
Monk went
Did
the other way,
he
so he
went
ended up on
Blazers?
Outlaw. He went to Outlaws.
Okay. Whew. Yeah, kind of playing musical chairs at Blazers, and Blazers sort of had the effect this year, the type of year this year that Outlaws, aka Aviators, had last year, where it's like you look at the list of names on paper and you know a lot of them, but not a ton to show for it.
Yeah.
Um, all right, I think next I'm gonna say let's look at I was gonna say US. All the series are too similar
Yeah.
in name. American Criterium Cup.
Uh, I'm gonna say below expectations personally. Like
Yeah, no,
there
I'm with
doesn't
you.
seem to be like okay, this is like my logic behind saying this. Like, was it a organized, well-run series? Sure,
Hmm.
but like, was there any kind of improvement from years previous? No.
I think
Um,
it digressed from previous seasons.
yeah,
I think.
it got like more spaced out, more convoluted. The stream, less streams.
Hmm.
Like this, this seemed to it seemed to provide less value to the teams that were doing it than it did years previous, and so you have to say it was below expectations.
Yeah, it certainly gave us less to cover and talk about, and there was so much space between a lot of those races, and like not a lot of consistency in terms
Yeah,
of like all the top teams being there. There wasn't a there wasn't a great storyline to follow there the way there was with the like Ribble Rainstorm sort of battle at USA Crits, or even like there's these series, the big like a USA Crits or an ACC, and then there's the sort of smaller sub series within that. But like
hmm
within it there was Tulsa Tough, and within that there was a great sort of like, is Luke Lamperti going to sweep it, or is Rainstorm going to be able to unseat him? And they did one night. That was fun to follow, but the longer, more protracted American Crit Cup season, I'm also docking them a lot. I'm gonna bump them down a few pegs for the streams that did exist were not even all in one place.
no. And then like they would start a stream for like the men's cat 2-3, and then it
Hmm.
would be like an ad for Parkinson's
Hmm.
for an hour. It's just kind of like, what are we doing, guys?
Yeah, it's I know it's like they're testing the stream. I know exactly what you're talking about,
Yeah,
and I know there's some ads that they have told sponsors they're going to get in there on the live stream, but when there seems like there's no structure to it,
yeah.
and it's not like sort of consistent, and
I
it's not
mean,
even
this is the thing, right? Like if you say, okay, stream starts at 2 o'clock, and the Category 2 race starts at 2:15, what do I assume? That the Category 2 race is going to be streamed, right? So I send
Mm-hmm.
that to all of my friends and family. Hey, I'm going to be on this stream. They open it up, they show 3 laps of my race, and then it's nothing but the Finney Foundation. That makes
Yeah.
people click off your ad, so it does the opposite of what it's supposed to do.
Yep.
Like, you've yeah, it's just like, and then this is not me talking shit about the Finney Foundation or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like point blank, if you're gonna do it, like communicate it out. Don't make it seem like this is gonna be streamed when it's actually not.
And also, when those ads start, it's helpful to know kind of like at this time a new race will be starting.
Yeah.
It was not super well
Or have
communicated.
them run side by side and turn the race audio off.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Not hard to do.
You want to talk Legion?
Bottom.
Okay, I would agree with you, except that Alexis won everything on the women's side.
That's fair. That's fair.
So you're talking about like giving value to the sponsors and stuff, and I think like part of the value of having a women's team is it's like one set of sponsors. That is part of the value is that your men's and women's team are all sort of one entity. You're getting more bang for your buck, and also your one program can save the other. You got a
Yeah.
backup if one totally flops one year, which it's hard to get everybody in form and at the races and all that at the same time. So I'm gonna say, I mean,
But
on
okay, but did we expect Alexis to win everything?
I honestly did. I expected her to win a lot. I didn't expect her to win as much as she did. Like she was more dominant. After 4 or 5, you start expecting it, but I think that she, especially, they cut the number of women on the team too. So I thought that she might have
Yeah.
an uphill battle this season, and clearly I was wrong about that. So I feel like I've got her the tip of her helmet just barely peeking above the line, so under the line, but not as far under as a Blazers.
Okay. Well, I mean, Ty did get second at the last race at Gateway, so
Yeah,
I mean, there we go.
they weren't totally without results, but underperformed for sure. Like
Yeah.
versus the expectations that I think everybody has for them.
Whether at this point justified or not, like everyone just
Yeah,
expects Legion to win, and like the past 2, arguably 3 years, they haven't really done what they have normally done. So
yeah, yeah. So a team that came in with like we kind of didn't know what to expect. Ribble Rebellion. What are you thinking there?
I think Ribble. So I expected them to do well.
Mm-hmm.
They did exactly what I expected them to do, but I think they performed over expectations because I think our talking point earlier in the season was like, how are they going to adapt to American racing?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they did just fine, and
Yeah,
they did better at the harder courses.
I think they were better than I thought they would be. Not that I thought they would be bad, but just we've seen other, like you said, teams come from other countries, and the Colombian team that comes to Speed Week sometimes. Like we've seen teams with big names and big guns from other countries show up and be anonymous, and they were well beyond anonymous. They talked a big game, but they backed it up. I think they
Mm-hmm.
were, and they also did a lot more American racing than I expected them to. They did a,
Yeah.
a lot of stuff.
I mean, we
Um,
expected them to like come out and do a couple races, and they were here. They were in America for almost every single national race,
yeah.
like the first half of the season.
Hmm.
They were even here for Gateway. Like, I
They were
mean,
here for Tulsa.
yeah, I,
Um,
I, I have nothing bad to say. Like, awesome looking kits and bikes. Like, all positives from me.
yeah, I feel like they, you know, I'm not sure if we can say they disrupted the the global crit scene. Is that what it was? But I
Yeah.
think I don't know about disrupted, but they definitely affected it. They definitely made a mark. So I'm putting them, you know, firmly on the positive side of the line, but not flying away with it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They set a high bar for themselves to clear, and they cleared
Mm-hmm.
it.
100%. I want to talk about Rainstorm because I feel like we don't have anything interesting to say about Rainstorm,
Yeah, yeah,
and I
yeah.
don't want to end on that. So Rainstorm squarely in the middle. Everyone expected them to dominate, and they dominated.
Yep.
Um, the only really like thing they didn't do well at was Tulsa,
Hmm.
um, and that's literally the only thing they didn't perform at.
And they had a world tour rider to deal with, former
Yeah,
national champ. I mean, the they had like the biggest target on their back, and then they had the biggest guns gunning for that big target. So
yeah,
I think that's fair, but also like it's tempting to say that they should go way up here, they should go up at the top, but with the amount of talent they had coming in, the Legion downturn, like we expected them to win pretty much everything. So it's hard to say like I don't know what they could have done to be farther up here in my mind. Maybe if they had like done something I didn't expect them to do, like win Redlands or something, but I expected them to
yeah.
dominate the crits and they dominated the crits. So,
Exactly. I mean, that's what they set out to do. They called their shot early, and that's it.
yeah. I think they also have in terms of like budget and support. I think that's another like thing that factors into it. So like, they have the biggest budget and support or one of the best support systems, Thomas Craven, one of the best DSs.
Yeah,
Um so yeah, we expect a lot out of them. They set a high bar and they nailed it. So
yeah,
them going I'm putting them dead center on the line like they are the focal point of the season, not to say that
yeah.
they were good or bad, just to say that they are like the gold standard. You know what? I'm going to make them bigger than everybody else too. I think that's fair.
100%. I think it. They have a great sponsor. It's funny. I'm not a big Criterium Nation fan. Like I'll just come out and say it. I think the journalism aspect is lost on my tiny brain, but like the Tolly episode where he was talking about like sponsorships and like he
Hmm.
said, I was at the airport and normally I would just walk past the energy drink aisle or like just grab a Monster, but I saw the Rainstorm and I bought it because it stuck out to me because they sponsor cycling. Like,
Yep.
I mean, I just came to mind. I don't know what my point was there, but as far as like sponsoring teams, like it's not necessarily a straight return. It's more about like just brand awareness. Like
Hmm.
I will buy. I've never purchased a Rainstorm until they sponsored a cycling team, and like now that's what I go get at the gas station. Like
Yeah, same. I definitely give it a second look, and yeah, I think they're giving a lot of bang for buck to that sponsor.
yeah,
Um, and that's part of the calculation, I think. With that in mind, the sort of like bang for buck uh, calculation, I want to talk work hard, be humble.
straight to the top.
Yeah, uh, honestly, a much bigger year even than I was expecting. I think we were all impressed with the what they were able to pull off toward the end of last year with Cesar Marte. But they sort of benefited from the downfall of the NCL in that they inherited most of the Atlanta women. They sort of like started a women's team from scratch with that and then built around it. But that women's
Yeah,
team had a great year. They were super present at all the races, which for a first year sort of like composite squad, a ship built in the air,
yeah,
really, really solid. And then they, on the men's side, had wins in big races, won an ACC race. Uh, if you had told me to put money on them winning an ACC race this year on the men's side, I would have not made that bet. I wouldn't have not
yeah.
put a fiver on that.
100%. And they won emphatically at Gateway. Like just
Yeah, that race was awesome to watch.
Tactically beautiful. Like all the riders on the team are getting better every year as individual
Hmm.
riders, and they're gelling well as a team. And there's not a lot of turnover on that team. I've noticed.
Yeah.
Like the guys who were there last year are there this year, and
Hmm.
same thing for years previous. It's
And they're
hard to.
building a lot of cohesion,
Yeah.
and that is truly how they won that race at Gateway. Like it was Preston reading the situation correctly and knowing when to like absolutely dump everything he had. That
Yeah.
was the kind of win that you can't get by just having a strong guest rider. They had to be well coordinated, well drilled, and
Hmm.
they were. So that was they built a lot on what they did last year.
Absolutely. Um, do you have one for Tulsa Tough?
I do, yeah. And also, like, feel free to. I can download images very
Okay.
quickly. So
Okay.
if you want to just throw things out there,
All right. So I'm gonna put Tulsa Tough. I say like right on the line for Tulsa. We went and I expected it to be the best weekend of my life, and it aside from my wedding, and it was. So,
good save.
so like, you know, obviously that's hyperbole, but I mean, it was like I expected it to be the best race ever,
Yeah,
and it absolutely was. Met and exceeded expectations. The racing was great, the crowds were great, vibe was great. Hard to
yeah. It
hard to
has a ton
complain.
of hype, and it lived up to the hype. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, courses were awesome. Our races were super fun. The pro racing was really good. Um, yeah, I totally agree. And just like the town of Tulsa, cool place, good reason to go there.
Yep.
Great experience all the way around, and good live streams
Yep.
of all the ACC races. I think they maybe had the best coverage. Although, okay, they also did a thing. You were talking about the like stream the amateur race, and then that was what they did at Gateway. The thing you were talking about earlier that was probably messing up their viewership. So at Tulsa, they live streamed everything as one stream through the day, the amateur races through the pro races, and then they took those down and then re-uploaded the races individually, which maybe seems smart because it seems like something where it's going to be easier. Most people are going back to watch the pro race, so it's going to make it potentially easier for people to find those rather than one like 9 or 10 hour stream. But I think they're messing up the like not SEO but the algorithm of YouTube. The algorithm
Mhm.
of YouTube likes to see when a bunch of people watch something live. So for that reason, all of you, get somebody in here live, hit the like button. The YouTube algorithm will pump something out to more people's home feeds if a bunch of people watch it live. And a live race like that, the highest volume of people searching for it is going to be during the race. So by taking that down and then re-uploading it, they basically just like killed the algorithm. I bet if you go look at the streams now, I'm gonna go look and we'll see how many they got. But it makes it look like their viewership numbers were really bad, but it's because they lost all of the numbers of everything they had live and they sort of like reset the algorithm.
Well, like what I was doing, being a team director, is I'd have the streams up, and there
Hmm.
were like 10,000 people watching in like the 1-2, not even the pro race yet.
Right. So right now I'm looking at the men's pro race from here's the men's pro from Crybaby, and this is the like they cut it up and re-uploaded it. 657 views.
Yeah.
So they just lost a ton. It looks like nobody watched this race, but a lot of people watched this race, and I think even more people would have been uh, fed that stream. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If they hadn't done it that way. So
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the thing is, like, it's there, it's high quality, which is nice. But yeah, I agree. Like, no one's handling SEO for Tulsa Tough like that. Like, they don't have somebody most likely whose job is to like understand algorithms and social media and how things reach people.
Yeah,
So
they're it feels like ACC and just like American cycling in general is kind of on the back foot when it comes to broadcast, to use the cycling term.
because American cycling is run by 50-year-old men.
50 plus, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep, I agree with that.
you need like a bunch of Gen Zers running this shit.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, let's talk about the
Oh,
Criterium National Series.
yeah, okay. What even was this? I don't like we do a show about crit racing and like I don't even know. I'm putting it down here. Like I think it was like most of the races that were ACC, right?
It was all the ACC races, and then like the 9 races at Intelligentsia and the 9 races at Toad that were not ACC races were also part of the Criterium National Series.
So then the
So
series is there money? Are there points? What does that get you?
uh, there might have been a little bit of money. Like there was one single press release, um, and like that's it.
There are event recaps. Yeah, it's just like unclear like how does
It's
this relate to,
the
so we got written recaps, but they're of the ACC. That one at least was for the ACC day. Okay, apparently I was wrong about the Tulsa Tough. They didn't take the live stream down. They just additionally re-uploaded as a video, which I guess is a better idea, but it still makes it look like if I go search for, Tulsa Tough, McElroy Parks, whatever right now, the one that pops up has 600 views, which is not a great look. I think it would probably be if I'm putting my YouTuber brain
so
on
all right.
the way to,
Check this out.
yeah.
On the live stream, like the full live,
Hmm.
37,000 views for Crybaby Day,
Right.
44,000 views for Arts District, and 30,000 views for Blue Dome.
Yeah, that's about what I would expect.
Like,
I think the better
incredible.
move in terms of getting people to go back and watch it is probably to add really good chapters to that and
Yep.
make it you know easy to scrub through and find exactly what you're looking for,
Yeah.
and continue to corral all those views into one place.
Yeah. Like, at this point, like this series in America, it feels like the intro to Monty Python and the Quest for the Holy Grail, where it starts with like the wrong movie, and then it's like the long series of title cards where it's like we've sacked the guy, and then like
Mm-hmm.
he messed up, so we sacked the guy who sacked him, and we
Mm-hmm.
sacked that guy, and like we sacked the guy who kept doing the sacking. Like it just feels like that over and over and over.
Yeah.
Like we just need the thing. Like like we just need one simple series that everyone can put all their eggs into.
Or our pitch, you know, this was something I guess that it's been on my mind, and this is the best time to talk about it. My pie in the sky pitch for the future would be USA Crits, that or even Speed Week, maybe even it gets even more condensed than that. That's the Southeast Regional. There is a California equivalent, and maybe they're all USA Crits. There's like USA Crits Southeast. There's
Yeah,
USA Crits California, and that has Giro San Francisco, Cherry Pie. I don't know. I don't live out there, so I'm just naming the ones I can think of. But like five
Manhattan
crits in
Beach. Yeah,
California.
like that's what I'm saying. It's just like
Hmm.
one big umbrella that we can put some regional series in, and then you say, okay, the 5 best, biggest races from those respective regions. So you say like Tulsa, Athens, let's Manhattan Beach, Snake
Hmm.
Alley, or Blue Dome, like skyscraper, Harlem skyscraper, whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
And you say, okay, like these regional series qualify you into the big one. Then your team goes and races the big 5, and then that's your
Hmm.
national series.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the only way. We're talking about things going away and downscaling and whatever. And the reason crits work against this is that they're easier to put on, they're easier to get to, and the final piece of that puzzle is you know making these things because it's tough to fly all over the country for a national series. There are only going to be
Yep.
so many teams that are going to be able to do that. So um, sort of bringing like laser focusing, creating a tiered system where there's sort of a regional. USA Crits is a great example of it is sort of national level in that some national level teams come, but it's also more of a regionally focused thing. But then Athens is like the big day of that. We
Yep.
need to replicate that model throughout the country.
Yep. Absolutely.
So that's 2027. Let's work toward that. What else do you want to talk about for this year? What are the other burning things? I feel like we got a lot of stuff on the board, and I don't want to
Um,
force it. Don't go by what I've just like got
no,
loaded.
I'm thinking. So, I mean, we can talk about how do we think Goldman Sachs did this year?
I feel like they were good. Um, that's another like there may be like right up like touching the line slightly above. Um, I honestly expected more once they signed Andrea Sear,
Yeah.
just because she had such a powerful ride before she signed with them, like after the folding of the NCL, but before she had gotten on Goldman Sachs at one of the early races of Speed Week. I think that was Greenville. Um, yeah, so I kind of she clearly had a fire lit under her. Uh, yeah, I don't know. How are you feeling about them? Is there a result I'm missing or something?
No, that's why I'm like, how do we feel about it? Because they've been one of the longest standing women's teams, but like I expected more from them with the Andrea Sear signing. I thought they would kind of bump up to maybe that DNA level,
Hmm.
and they just didn't. So that's where I'm kind of like, if they probably performed a little bit under expectations. And I think the main thing is a lot of these teams got hurt by the NCL
Yeah.
folding. So I know there are like Super Bars is folded because they lost the NCL money.
Hmm.
Founts men's team folded because of the NCL money. And
I thought their
so
men's team. I thought they were doing more next year. Is that just their women's program?
I
They're just
believe
doubling down on the women's.
that's my understanding. Could be incorrect, but that's my understanding. Um, and so like the NCL, like really, I mean, honestly, we could put NCL there. That happened this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, that
Um,
was this year, yeah. And it like set a tone for the whole season kind of.
yeah, because yeah, like they promised all the like the thing is that little NCL badge on that jersey was worth $15,000.
Hmm.
To a lot of these teams that were regional, like your Supras, like that's an annual budget. Um, and for that to
Yeah.
go away, just a lot of these teams could not recover, and now they're gone or folded because of that $15,000 lost. Plus,
Yeah.
I'm sure part of the sponsor pitch was, hey, we're going to be doing this series. It's streamed. It's a national organized league that you can follow that's
Hmm.
backed by investors, and that all went away. So now the sponsors who that's part of the pitch, right, are going, well, why would I give you money when you're not doing this? Like, why would
Yeah, for
I?
sure.
So, um, aside from just the NCL folding and individual riders having to disperse, like them folding, like screwed up
Yeah,
the scene this year.
it really hurt the ecosystem and kind of set a bad. I'm honestly surprised with like how good of a season we were able to have in terms of like fans enjoying the racing this year with
Yeah.
such a tough race. Yeah, such a tough way to start it off. A lot of riders definitely hurt by that. Um, I'm gonna say, we're coming up on an hour. We got another show next week. For anybody who didn't catch it at the top, we've got James Grady, who worked on the Red Bull Bay Climb, started the Mission Crit Fixie race. He has a new Fixie series. He's coming on the podcast next week. So that's next Wednesday. That is Wednesday I should know this, 9th.
Yeah.
So yeah, look out for that on the YouTube. But yeah, since we got another one so imminent, I'm going to say let's call it there unless you got something burning in your mind that we missed. But this is kind of vibes
I,
based. So these are the
I
things that
spoke my
stuck out.
piece. I spoke my piece.
Cool. All right. Well, this is our board for the year. This is where we think everything landed. USA crits way up there. NCL huge and at the bottom. I
Yeah.
think that's pretty fair.
I think that
Uh,
sums up the year
Yeah,
very
totally.
well.
Yeah. USA crits came through in a big way, and the NCL uh, dragging everyone down a little bit. Hey, this podcast has officially outlasted the NCL. So our first episode
Hey,
was pre NCL, and here we are.
there we go. Podcasts are free.
Yeah, that gets to the everything we've been saying about like how easy it is to put something on. The barrier to entry. Podcasting is grassroots, and it's doesn't require a lot of infrastructure. So
No.
let that be a lesson to NCL. You build a big house of cards, it's easy to knock it over.
Yeah. 100%.
Cool. Well, I am gonna